Hi everyone, how are you doing? Shalom. Let's begin with a reminder to Parashat Vayikra. So at the end of Chumash Shemot of Exodus, Moshe finishes building the tabernacle, the Mishkan. And then at the beginning of Leviticus, Vayikra, God calls Moshe to enter to the Mishkan, and there is another revelation. We talked about the personal call to you, to me, and according to Rashi, only Moshe hears the call, not Yoshua, not Aharon his brother, none of Israel, no one. The calling for a vocation. That's for last week. And actually to this week I would like to continue the call from last week and go through several stations. The beginning of Exodus, Shemot, the beginning of Vayikra, which we just talked about as a reminder, and the first pasuk of our Parashat, Shemini, the 8th day. In Exodus chapter 4, we have the first revelation between God to Moses, which there God is telling Moshe about his shlichut, about his mission to help and release Am Israel, take them from Egypt into Israel. About 5 times Moshe opposes to the suggestion of God to him. So at first he says to God, "Who am I?" And later they will not believe me. They will say to me, "What is God's name?" And what shall I tell them? Also, they will not listen to my voice. Moreover, I'm not a man of words. I have difficulties in my speaking. My Lord, please send by hand, send. And what's happening at the end is, and God was angry with Moses. Moshe is looking for all of the excuses why the assignment of the mission to him will not succeed, and why he is not worthy or capable of it. At the end, it can be suggested that God is angry at Moshe's lack of trust within him, even the lack of trust with God. As it's written, who gives a mouth to a person? Then he brings Aharon to help him through all the talks and speeches with Pharaoh and Am Israel. And though Moshe sets out to his life mission, only after he tried to avoid the task with all the excuses. So as we discussed at the reminder, God calls to Moshe to enter to the tabernacle. Let's find out what the first line of our new Parashat, Shemini, the 8th day, has to tell us. And it will be the 8th day, and Moshe called Aharon and his sons and the elders of Israel. So what have we read? So after 8 days were of reserve, which Aharon and his sons were preparing themselves for their work in the Mishkan, Moshe himself caused them to begin the work of offering the sacrifices and burning the incense. Moshe is not saying, he is not talking. First of all, he calls. The call is, once again, as a reminder of who you are, of your vocation, Aharon and his sons. I would like to suggest that Moses himself went through a big process, since the first revelation of the beginning of Exodus, until the exit of Israel from Egypt, and to the beginning of God's service in the tabernacle. Moshe goes through that process and realizes that indeed every person has his special and unique call from God, a call that cannot be ignored, a call that even the prophet Jonah, despite all of his persistent attempts to escape from his mission, eventually responded to the vocation that God intended for him. We were created by the image of God. There is a part of God from above that's within us. Something within us is really similar to Him, infinite. We were blessed that God eventually at this time of the year, the spring, grows the leaves, the flowers, the fruits, as we can smell and notice in the orchards. So, I would wish that from these insights, we too will be privileged to hear the call to us and to grow and thrive more and more. Very much. Have a Shabbat Shalom. Till next time.